So let's bring in our fair and balanced panel, Democratic strategist and former senior aide to Senator Schumer, Michael Tobman, and Larry O'Connor, the online editor of the Weekly Standard and the host of the Larry O'Connor Show. All right, Michael, I want to start with you. There are no weekends with this new administration. I want to just get your take of where we are now and the most recent news this morning.
The thing about judicial review of governmental actions is, though you disagree with the ruling today, a ruling tomorrow preserving your property rights or protecting your due process rights from law enforcement will serve you and will protect you then. It is a foundational tenet of our democracy, of American government, judicial review of governmental actions. You disagree with the judge, you appeal, you lose an appeal, you go to the U.S. Supreme Court, and then you have a decision that guides and navigates and instructs moving forward. A bad decision today you don't like can lead to a decision tomorrow that protects you, and that's what court review is about. Okay,
but that being said, does that bring any clarity? And I want to bring in you, Larry, because there could be, like you said, there's a story this morning, but it could be a completely different story come Monday morning.
I'm here to bring clarity. Thanks for asking. Listen, I love our Constitution, and isn't it a wonderful thing to see our constitutional process take place? I respect Senator Dianne Feinstein, but this whole goose for the gander clause in the Constitution, I don't find that. There's no tit for tat in the Bill of Rights. Just because Republicans objected to President Obama's executive orders doesn't mean they were wrong, and it doesn't mean that it's not okay for President Trump to put through this executive order, because here's the difference. He has invoked this executive order and these restrictions on certain countries and certain travelers from these countries under the guise of national security. That's a trump card, if I can use a pun there. It really is.
Okay, but my question to you, because a lot of people are at home are wondering, what exactly is this law, this judge claiming when it comes to the constitutionality of this executive order?
I'm lost there, because I think that he doesn't have a really solid ground. Listen, I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but my understanding here is that our legislative branch through Congress passed a law, and it specifically states that the president, the executive branch, if for the purposes of national security, deems it necessary to put certain travel restrictions and disallow people to enter our borders,
all right, Michael,
he can do that. He has that authority, and the judicial branch can't veto that.
Well, that's where you're wrong, respectfully disagreeing. Before the current members of Congress's great-great-great-grandparents were born, a foundational judicial decision, Marbury v. Madison, provides that the judiciary absolutely has the right to review governmental actions. And it is a basic foundational premise of our government. And law is the language of government and politics, not spin. Despite what my colleague is saying in his glib and his articulate manner, as he's doing it, law is the language of government and politics, and after the campaign and after the press conferences, after the flourish of the pen on the executive order, it must withstand judicial scrutiny if it is challenged, and that's where we are now.
And Michael, thank you for that very generous way that you disagreed with me, but we actually don't disagree. I didn't say that the judicial branch doesn't have the right to review. What I said was they don't have the right to override what the president did if it's under the guise of national security.
Okay,
the judicial branch has not, they have not waded into this in the past.
I hate to interrupt you, and I wouldn't have if we didn't hear some news also from an interview that we had with our own Bill O'Reilly and President Donald Trump. There was obviously, as you know, they'll be speaking at 4 p.m. shortly before the Super Bowl, but I want to play a preview for that clip because it is making headlines this morning, and I want to get your reaction.
Okay.
Take a listen.
Do you respect Putin?
I do respect him.
Do you? Why?
Well, I respect a lot of people, but that doesn't mean I'm going to get along with him. He's a leader of his country. I say it's better to get along with Russia than not. And if Russia helps us in the fight against ISIS, which is a major fight, and Islamic terrorism all over the world, major fight, that's a good thing. Will I get along with him? I have no idea.
He's a killer, though. Putin's a killer.
A lot of killers. We got a lot of killers. Why, you think our country's so innocent?
All right, Michael, I want to start with you because some of I listened to reaction on both sides of the aisle, obviously Sunday political talk shows. Some people are outraged. They're saying, look, you're comparing the U.S. to Russia. You can bring up Crimea. You can bring up their activity in Syria, that there is no comparison and it shouldn't have been made. What's your reaction?
Elections have consequences, as the left is finding out, and the Democratic Party lost the election, and there are consequences to that, but campaigns have consequences as well. And whatever the allegation is, whatever is substantiated in terms of Russian involvement or interference with our election, it opened the door to this conversation. It was a fair question, and I think that it is analogous. We can talk about the United States' role internationally, historically, and what Russia perhaps did here, and discussions in Syria and other places. The world is a moving thing. It's not a static situation. It's not a photograph. It's a moving picture. I think these were fair questions. And what happened with the campaign, however it's substantiated, opened the door to these hard questions specifically on Russia.
All right, Larry, we have about 30 seconds. I'm going to give you the last word.
Yeah, listen, Donald Trump is not your typical politician. He says things in a way that I wish he wouldn't say them. Perhaps he was trying to inelegantly say, in the same way FDR and Winston Churchill found a common ally with Joseph Stalin, a murderous thug, because we had a common enemy at the time in Adolf Hitler. Maybe he's saying he can find some common ground with Putin against ISIS. Maybe that's what he was saying. Luckily, it's not my job to interpret this president's words, but I wish he had said it like that.
All right, well, your job was a panel discussion. You did an excellent job, gentlemen.
Thanks, Liz,
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank
Have
you.
a great
Thanks,
Sunday.
Michael.
Thank you.